Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brianna Williams. I am from the product management team for HCX. I'm joined by Gabe. He will do our demo later today, but I'm just going to give you all an intro to HCX and HCX Plus. I've been with VMware for about 5 years. I focus on HCX and for some time. I was in PSO before. Implementing this for our customers. So it's really exciting to be taking this to the next level with HCX Plus. Just as a raise of hands, are there any familiarity with HCX and our use cases in the room? Kind of, sort of. Okay, that's fine. That's why we're here. So we're going to get started. So HCX and HCX Plus, this is probably the third time you've seen a variant of this slide. But as you all know, we're all here to learn about Project North Star, and I'm going to be talking about the HCX Plus portion of it. It's right at the bottom. It's how we are bringing the connectivity between all of the different clouds together, where the customer wants to migrate between on-prem to on-prem, on-prem to VMC. That is what our main goal is. HCX does this as well, but HCX Plus, as I'll describe a little bit more, is taking this to the next level of just allowing customers to get to that first migration quicker instead of having to go through the trust and turmoil of getting everything set up and not knowing really what to do next. So we are solving for, making sure that we're having a consistent multi-cloud experience and also simplified. Simplification of all of the operations is the core of why we're doing what we're doing. And so HCX Plus is great to help with customers doing that, looking to solve their mobility and migration needs. So what are we solving for, really? So 89% of companies, they're facing challenges when they're trying to migrate to the cloud, whether that's a private cloud, public cloud. There's a lot of difficulty as they're trying to complete a migration for various of reasons, maybe because of incompatibility between sites. They don't know how to really do this migration without impacting their end users, because usually it takes a lot of buy-in from the business in order to for them to feel comfortable as well, to know that their application is moving from somewhere that they know true to them. There's difficulty of hard-coded IP addresses, and just overall uncertainty when you're moving these VMs. One of the things that you really want to make sure is during this migration is that there's going to be no business impact. So HCX does that in a number of different ways. We are helping our customers migrate between a lot of different clouds. With HCX itself, we are focusing on people who are modernizing their enterprise. They are adopting VMC or any of the other hyperscalers such as AVS or GCVE. We do have OS assisted migration to help those customers who also need to migrate KVM or Hyper-V and bring that into VMware as well. So we have a lot of different use cases. And then HCX Plus is going to be bringing that to a new level. So now we're introducing a bird's eye view so that you can manage all of this from one point of view, right? One thing that you'll see that's lacking is OS assisted migration. We don't have that quite yet. And this isn't roadmap, but right now we don't have OS assisted migration as of right now. And right now we also only have VMC on AWS. The other hyperscalers will come, as planned. We're looking at prioritizing that. But right now we do support customers who are trying to really modernize their infrastructure, move away from legacy environments, and things of that sort. So HCX Plus is different from HCX because, in the HCX world, right, we have these managers that get deployed in each and every site. We say a site is a vCenter for simplicity's sake, because if you have a VCF, you have multiple vCenters, multiple workload domains, things like that. So we deploy a HCX manager in each of those so that customers can facilitate their migrations from point A to point B. Now it can be point A to point B, point A to C. You can have multiple different sites that you're migrating, maybe, or you're consolidating into one site. So it's really up to what the customer's use case is. But now with HCX Plus, we're taking those sites and bringing them up into HCX Plus console, which is going to be accessible via the cloud services portal. Hopefully we're familiar with that. And you'll be able to do your migrations from there, the network extensions, and just do all of the operations. You have a bird's eye view of, okay, I have X amount of sites and they are, migrating between all of these different places, just so that you have a little bit of simplicity. With the value prop, right? We have customers who are either at the core rehosting, replatforming, or rebalancing their workloads. So they could be, adopting VCF. We have customers who are consolidating their data centers because it's just too much for them to handle. I've met a customer this year who goes into VMC during the peak season because their applications need a little bit more robust host that VMC can offer that you can't get on-prem as quickly or as what is it called, ad hoc basis, right? So we have a lot of that, and HCX solves for these too, but HCX Plus is solving for this as well. The real differentiators between HCX and HCX Plus are the ones on here with the stars. So I'll talk about those a little bit briefly. First off, we have simplified deployment. And like I said earlier, a lot of this value is, okay, what can we do to get that time to the first migration quicker? And so that customers are worrying less about the infrastructure and more about the day-to-day operations that are needed to get to their completion of the migration, right? So we have simplified deployment. We're making sure that after you're deploying that OVA at your vCenter, that should be the last time that you interact with that individual site. After that, everything, whether you have 2, 5, 10 sites, we have customers who have 40 sites that they're migrating between in VMC, SDCs. Whether you have that many, you're just doing everything from one place. Centralized management touches on that as well, but with simplified deployment, we're just making sure that it's just consistent between no matter where you're migrating between. Centralized management, now you're able to operate everything from the console. Lifecycle management, something new where we want to eventually take that burden off of customers and say, okay, well, worry about the day 1, day 2 things, and we'll help you with lifecycle management so that it's less for you to upgrade and worry about, okay, what's upgraded, what in my infrastructure is still legacy, just to make sure that everything's consistent and customers are able to take advantage of the best features when possible, right? And then lastly, reporting and visibility, just so that you can see the health of your sites. Is it okay for me to start a migration? Are my network extensions healthy so that my applications are not impacted when they're at their new destination environment? All of this is really built on the core infrastructure of HCX. So we still have our workload mobility. We're still migrating the VMs using replication or vMotion or a combination of both, depending on the migration type you're using. We're still using our core network connectivity concepts where we're extending networks and network spaces into these new environments. And using mobility optimized networking to reduce the latency where possible. So all of that is still tried and true. We actually this year, or a couple months ago, we just celebrated 1 million migrations for all of our customers. So that same technology is what we're using here in HCX Plus. And now Gabe is going to show you a little bit about it.
Just a quick question on this. How does this integrate with the advanced load balancer that we just heard about? I mean, it seems like there's an awful lot of features that should be fairly closely tied together.
Like what? What comes to mind?
Like the migration aspect of it, the ability to do upgrades and do rapid maintenance. These were some of the exact same things that the advanced load balancer team was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So do the two products actually integrate together?
Yeah, so HCX Plus hasn't integrated with any of the rest of the North Star products. We actually had our initial availability this past April. So we've been available for customers. We have 2 that are or we have multiple that are using it right now. As far as integrations with Avi and with the rest of the NSX Plus, that's yet to be determined at this point. But as far as migrations, like what was Avi also mentioning migrating?
Well, they were talking about having an advanced load balancer um, for doing network load balancing, but they were also talking about the ability to migrate workloads from one data center to a cloud or out to make better use to better load balance.
Hmm.
So
Well, so I mean, in the first slide, right? So all of the pieces of Project North Star are part of the bigger picture of workload and mobility. So I'm not sure what exactly. Sorry.
So I think they have a synergy in that, you know, in the AOB plus, like you have kind of a global view of all of your sites, and you're defining like the load balancing front end and back ends in like the context of all your sites. Now they're actually now moving the workloads themselves. We do all of that with an ACX, right? So just like they're doing load balancing functionality, we're not doing that in ACX. A customer using NSX Plus is coming into the central view on the cloud platform and driving all of this functionality in that context of all of their sites. Now, if like without these things coexisting, you have a migration people doing the movement of workloads totally separated from load balancing people doing that work, right? So now you're gonna have a cohesive picture of all of your sites and what's active, and at the same time you click over to the migration view, which I'll show you in a minute, and you can see like the workloads and where they are, and you're using ACX to actually move them. So we're not doing the same thing like at all. Like there's no,
okay,
if that makes sense.
yeah.
All right, so I don't have slides for my demo. It's just this, I'm gonna log into ACX Plus as we have it built today, and just show you what exists, right?
Do you want a full screen?
Is that visible?
Yeah.
All right, so right now I'm in the cloud services portal. So in you know in this browser, I'm already logged in. I haven't opened up ACX Plus, so I'm just gonna go to the navigator, click it open. So actually the way a user would connect to this service is, I mean, they could actually just you folks could do it on your laptop. You could go to acxplus.vmware.com, and that's how you access, you know, migration functionality. Now, if you go into it without you know having access to the service or having an org in the VMware cloud, you'll get like a limited view where you can see some of the launch pad and some of the sequence that we go through to get a customer up and running. But if you are, you know, if you have created an org and you'll get a dashboard, right? You get a dashboard of all of your sites, your the services that you've chosen to run, and a summary of everything going on. So we're going to give you like sort of a summary bird's eye view of everything you're doing with ACX. Now, one of our kind of philosophies as we're building this out is that a lot of our customers don't have migration as a core discipline. So for folks, you know, there's the classic, you know, infrastructure admins, network admins, storage admins. There's no migration admins. It's like not really a thing. It's kind of a newer thing as you're having to consume cloud. So with ACX Plus, the really big opportunity that we had as we were rebuilding is let's make life easier for them, right? So for our customers who are coming in, they fell in love with what NSX is doing or what VMware is doing in general. So like on our side, like, hey, let's help them consume it all. Like if they're gonna go to new VMware Cloud Foundation, vSphere 8, oh now they want to do vSAN 8, the ESA architecture that was out last year. Like all of these things that VMware releases, our prerogative is to make sure that there's compatibility between customers' old things and whatever they're adopting now. So that's sort of our bread and butter is to ensure that they're compatible across the old and the new, and they're not having to like rip it all out and have new across the board for things to work. So that's kind of the space that we're in. In general, when you talk about ACX, the sites that we deal with, they're not aware of each other. So a customer says, okay, well, I have my legacy and I have my cloud or my VCF that's new. And in ACX land, those sites are never aware of each other. We're kind of kind of an abstraction of these things for the purpose of migrating their networks and their workloads, right? So here, you know, like this is just kind of showing. It's kind of cut off. what you're seeing here is you're seeing 6 tiles for 6 different sites, right? Outside of HCX Plus, a customer, Brianna mentioned that a user is individually onboarding every site and configuring every site. And in HCX Plus, that's not the case. We've like really minimized how much a customer does in one site. You still do a traditional OVA deployment where you give an IP address to our manager and you point it to the service, and we take up inventory and we allow them to do everything else. So even the early configuration, right? So getting a site up and running is the easiest thing. So here I have a little button in the corner. So this is like onboarding a site, right? So if I click this, it's gonna say, hey, my new site. I'll give it a friendly name and a passphrase. That doesn't matter what I put. And I kick off the process by just generating a simple manifest. Now, like this, I can copy it to my clipboard or download it, and in the vCenters or my sites where I'm going to be migrating VMs, I'm going to deploy one OVA that's IP'd and kind of accessible, and I'm going to use this manifest to connect it, and actually have a tab with that to show you what it looks like. All right, so let me. Everything logged out. Sorry, give me 1 second here.
So right now, all the migrations are just VMware to VMware, but the roadmap would be actually VMware to the cloud native hypervisors as well as part of that migration path. Like, do the actual transformation of the hypervisor, or is that still kind of way out on that timeline?
As far as migrate, I'll move over here for the sake of the.
Just while it's getting.
So your question was,
So-
right now it's VMware to VMware.
Right. Is it eventually going to be kind of VMware to alternative hypervisor as part of that?
Yeah. So one thing that we are looking at investigating is actually consuming. Like, we have a lot of customers who are looking to repatriate from native. So that's something that we would like to look at. No commitments yet, but something to investigate for us.
Hey.
Any other questions about that, or?
Okay, I'm back. Okay, so what you see here on the left side navigator is the remnants of all of the things that you could do with HCX before, right? So you could before you were coming into the system and doing like 50 screens of configuration and to get things going before ultimately, like there's a couple of tabs for extending networks and migrating VMs. So there's not a lot, like we do a lot of functionality kind of packaged as a couple of operations, but there's a lot of prep to get things going outside of HCX Plus. So now what we have in the site is we have a single configuration where we take that manifest, ingest it, and it'll let us know, hey, the site's registered, it's good to go. Go back to hcxplus.vmware.com and keep doing work from there, right? So now that I'm back here in HCX Plus, so we have a central view showing all of my registered sites and what's connected, what's working, what version it's on. If I'm doing a large scale project where I'm consolidating a ton of sites, in the HCX world, we actually release pretty often compared to other VMware products, because we have to maintain interoperability with everything that comes out, as I was mentioning earlier. So sometimes while we are compatible backwards towards what's leaving GA, we have to do like small updates to ensure that the new things are supported. The kind of one of the cool things that we did here is we're like I said, we're centralizing the place where you do maintenance to upgrade your individual sites, and we're building towards taking it off the customer's hands. So now they can just define when we can do work, and we can go in there and do it on their behalf. So that'll be something that way that their day one, day two, their day zero, day one work is very easy, like doing a simple registration, and they can move right into migrating. So that's what they want to do with HCX. They want to consume whatever they bought. So we want that to be like the emphasis of what they do with HCX, and the rest of it should be just an easy thing. So HCX, the concept of related sites, we've changed it. We've kind of redesigned it. So this concept of site pair. So usually when you're adopting new, you have your on-prem and your cloud, and really like that's the relationship that matters. You know where you are and where you're going. Really the rest of it, we've simplified what you have to do to make sure that those two can be migrated. So after you define a site pair here in HCX, so I have one screen where I select available sites. I just do, for example, my on-prem data center and my cloud, and everything else that used to be a separate operation is all kind of minimized and built in. So if a customer has a simple deployment, they don't. I mean, like it's the easiest configuration. Like we'll pre-suggest the easiest configs. Like if they have whatever the vMotion network is, for example, on one side, like we'll auto detect it. Like they don't have to tell us, hey, what it is. So it's minimizing those first steps. So here once we hit go, and we've defined the relationship, all of the core services that HCX uses to deliver the value, they're automatically deployed. Now we know we're not doing anything dangerous, right? So we're pretty much deploying a worker that knows how to talk to the clusters in your source and in your cloud, and we're deploying appliances that know how to talk in a virtualized network, and how to communicate with a VLAN and translate between those. So that way, a customer doesn't actually have to have any sort of network expertise to get things going. I kind of want to show you here.
One thing I want to clarify before we move off that.
Yeah.
You verbally you said the site you are coming from and the site you're going to.
Sure.
The interface makes me think that it's less of an ordinal relationship. So the question becomes, as you add these sites to pair them, do you define, or does it matter? Like it's just two sites, they can talk, you can go either direction, or is it a directional relationship between them?
It matters a little bit. So we have an intention to completely be
Back and forth.
so you can do back and forth functionality already, but so like if you're saying connect A to B, there's some like under the covers, like there's some networking rules that matter, right? So like NATing has to be a certain way coming out and coming in. So those things still matter. We're working towards the point where no matter what you chose first, the right behavior happens. So that's kind of a vision for us is even make that
Still
easier.
evolving that direction.
It is.
Yeah. And I guess to add to that, we like under the covers, we do have like version requirements, right? So right now, HCX, if you're migrating to an environment, it requires NSX with an overlay deployed, right? So that if that wouldn't be applicable if it's at the source, because if you're trying to extend a network going reverse, it's going to be a bit of a problem.
Sending VLANs is a little complex.
Yeah. So there are a lot of considerations if you're trying to move back and forth, but we're trying to build this, like Gabe said, with the notion in mind of, this is really meant for mobility because customers are going back and forth.
So in this like particular environment, if I click over and I there's like to show you the topology or the sites that we have awareness of. Again, the benefit is like for my work, I have these GR labeled sites let's say I'm doing a migration from GR on-prem to my Redwood data center. As you can see here, like some other folks are doing other work, and you can see the relationships and the status of those things, right? So I purposely configured kind of a bad one, showing you like if you're the person that's in charge of HCX, and you have different folks doing different migrations, maybe you've handed some off to a contractor, and maybe you're doing some in a lab. You can kind of keep track of what's connected to what, and you have less of a case where you have orphaned appliances and kind of just things that are out of your that linger out there unused, and you have a good sense of what's been connected to what where are extensions running, what's been defined as related. Now, when I click over on our like I mentioned, the basic two things that you do as an HCX customer is you extend your networks and you migrate your workloads. This is like at the core, the two things that we do with HCX. So we've even made those things easier, right? So here in HCX Plus, I have a single network extension UI. Right now, I'm showing you the last ones that I've configured. But if I switch the view, I can show you by site pairs or by relationships what's extended. And this is actually a really important because in the world of networking, like if you have adjacent sites and you're doing extensions in both locations, you don't want to introduce loops. If you're working in outside of HCX Plus, you don't have this view of every site and what's connected. So you're limited to like the one site and what it's doing to something else. So as you're configuring, you don't have the context of like other configuration that's floating out there. So this gives us the opportunity to catch overlaps and things. Like if just as an example, you have a lab with vCenter 1 and some other lab with vCenter 2, and they're both extending the same VLAN, and they happen to be backed by the same physical VLAN in the network stack. Well, here, because we have the wider view, we can actually we'll say, hey, you've already done this. Don't cause an outage. That's entirely not possible outside of outside of HCX Plus. So this is a real good opportunity to do even these simple things very safely, right? So if I go here to like extend the network, I'm just gonna show you how simple it is. I'm gonna just pick my my sites and hit next. When I go to extend the network, you know, the interface can show me all of the vSphere networks, all NSX networks, and then I can filter based on, you know, like if there's no VMs on a network, don't show it to me. If something is not eligible, don't show it. I'm just gonna grab a random one here for the just the exercise. I just want to show you how easy it is, right? So I'm gonna just make up a gateway here. So whenever I go extend, me as a person doing the extension, all I need to know is my network's gateway on-prem and where I'm gonna connect it in the cloud. So two things, right? So as long as you know, like if you know your VMs, you know their gateway, you don't have to do you don't have to have an interaction with a network team in this particular case. You can say, hey, we're testing infrastructure in the cloud. We're gonna simply extend the network, have a shared broadcast domain, and like make it really easy for VMs to go to the other location as we know this. So that way you can kind of segment that work and make it really easy to just try something else out. When actually let me finish putting this thing down. So I pick a gateway, hit next, and really that's it. Now it's hit finish here. Okay, well, error. But that's all. In the case, these are all the steps that go into it, right? So I think I'm picking the wrong backing here. But in any case, what I want to show is that there's not a lot of steps to execute the operation. It's picking a network, picking a gateway where you're going to attach it in the destination, and we extend it, right? So once HCX Plus creates that extension, your cloud side has an overlay where migrated VMs communicate back to existing gateways and existing policies, and these services. Something else we've done is the the settings. There were settings that we have in HCX Plus where it was complex to build highly available HCX services. Here we've added these settings in the advanced mode. Yeah, so as I'm extending, I have some additional options. So this is more for anyone who's already worked with HCX and they've done a network extension. In our previous version of this service, you would have to build appliances, bundle them, and like do an additional configuration for HA. Like now here it's just a checkbox. And same thing with everything else. Like in HCX Plus, all of the complex functionality that allows VMs to communicate as you migrate them, they're available as just a checkbox. So that's an extension. On the mobility operations side, similarly to the network extension, we have a single view that has multiple sites and you similarly launch them all from one place. So here in my example, I'm already doing a migration of a critical app. If I go do a new migration, yes, okay, out of time. Okay, I'm gonna click just one screen. Okay, so if I go do a new migration, right? I have my site pairing, my migration, and I hit next. The last thing I want to mention here is that in HCX Plus, something that we've done very different is that we suggest settings for everything, right? So if you migrate to one side, we look at the inventory and we suggest to the user use this storage, use this container, and and give them smart defaults that minimize the amount of settings that they have to click through before doing the migration. Outside of Plus, it's all a manual interaction.